Good morning, Elle Ingalls here at pressure-free.com. You can also go to lingles.com. It'll take you to the same place. I am going to be changing up my website because there's some issues going on right now. So hopefully everything will be smooth over the next couple of weeks as I redesign what I want to create here for everybody. The topic today is that the key is in the timing. So I thought I was a pretty calm person. I thought I was doing everything right to keep myself healthy for decades. I would say starting really in elementary school because I was one of those super high achiever girls. I always did all the extra stuff. I belonged to the Audubon Society, and I'd go out there once a week, and I mean there were just always things going on. My mother was a consummate volunteer for so many things in our city and in our state. And so she was always involving us in various volunteer activities. No wonder I ran a nonprofit for years. I was like being trained to do that from a young age. And so I lived under this paradigm that you have your big day, you work really hard, and then you you take time off, you settle down, you relax, you chill out. And if you did that pattern, you were taking care of yourself. You exercised, you ate well, this is what I thought. This is what I did. So I would meditate morning and night. I would exercise. I would eat pretty well. Um, and I thought all of those activities were the things that were keeping me healthy and making sure that I wasn't harming myself in any way. And that was a paradigm that was completely wrong. It was completely wrong. And when I really dug in 2010 to understand what is the stress response really, what's going on when I feel certain emotions, when I feel certain things, um, how do I stay calm and confident in the heat of the moment? So for about 20 years, I had a method I would use to keep me calm on stage, to keep me calm when I'm giving a speech to 2,000 people in the auditorium, to in the heat of the moment, athletic competitions, any sort of performance. Um, and I thought that's all you need. Like those are the big moments. That's what you need to protect yourself from having this, stage fright, if you will. That's what we called it back then. But you might call it a panic attack today, or just feeling anxious or nervous before a big event. So I used that. I used my little tools for like 20 years. And then at age 47, that's when my sons asked me to coach their baseball team in these little tools, these tips I have so that you go up to bat and you're totally chill and in the zone. I called it like being in the zone. Same thing if you're pitching or you're out in the field and here comes the ball, like you don't panic and drop the ball. You see that happen all the time, even in pros, like they mess up the play, right? So I had these ways to just keep you so in the zone. And then I came across this research from a couple different sources, but the big source was Dr. Marianne Legato, Columbia emeritus professor. She she was the one whose research really opened my eyes to what's happening in the stress response. And in some of her research, this is decades ago, she discovered that one release of these hormones had effects on the being that would last for hours, far longer for women than for men. It can be up to 9 hours for men, up to 24 hours for women. And as I reflected on it and thought about it, I thought, once we release these stress hormones, we're in the stress response, which is to fight or run away. We're in a state where we're constantly looking for threats. So now we're going to trigger over and over and over again all throughout our day. And that's why when we get home from work, we could be so exhausted. It's like that old commercial when I was growing up, Calgon, take me away. It means go take a big bubble bath, right? And shut the door and leave the world behind you. And so that was the way I was living, like do this stressful day. By the time we get the kids to bed, whether, okay, now that's when we can finally chill out. right? And that's not how it works. So as I went more and more into this research, I concluded that the only way to really protect yourself from the effects of the stress response, so the effects of stressors working on you, is to prevent the release of the stress hormones. If we can do that, then a lot is going to change for us. When you start to look at all the side effects, and this is what I teach people when they work with me, like, what are all those side effects? Let's figure it out for you, but also who you live with, because everyone is so different in what their stressors are and in the effects they feel in their body. Just going to choose three areas this morning to share with you. So a lot of times it's head centered for people. They grind their teeth. They need if you need a mouth guard, that's a clue. By the way, everything I'm sharing here, it's a clue that the stress hormones are working on you. Brain fog, you can't make decisions very well. You can't think very well. Memory slips. You can't recall things as fast as you would like to be able to. The jaw tension is a real deal for sure. Headaches and migraines, so very head centered. For some people, it's very chest centered. So the racing heart, they feel their heart rate racing. They feel tension coming in here. Their shoulders are usually up. There's like just a ton of tension in this part of the body. And then for some people, it's their gut. So they have gut issues, maybe ulcers, colitis, um, a lot of things going on in the gut area. Maybe it's just that feeling of dread, that pit in the stomach kind of feeling when you're worried about something or nervous about something. Or you have to pee a lot, or you get instant diarrhea. I was working with a tennis player once who that was the case. Um, so there's the lower part of our torso has stuff going on. So head, chest, torso. Sometimes my clients will say, I have all of those. Like it's everything. Um, for me, I definitely had the jaw tension. And my biggest clue, which honestly, I think I was just in denial that it was a clue that I had any sort of stress issue. Um, where my skin, what's my skin? So my skin, I would get like flare-ups of stress acne on my cheeks. It was not blush, it was stress acne. Um, my hands, this one in particular, covered in eczema, just covered in it. And now, like, these knuckles were literally cracked and bleeding for 35 years. And in 8 weeks, they completely cleared when I started to use my method on myself. So what is this method and how powerful is it? And why is it so powerful? So what it came up with is from the moment we start to feel a tension or a stressor or a challenge, we start to feel worried, we start complaining, we start to blame other people for things like any sort of negative thought or negative behavior or physical tension or mental tension, like any of that, that is the moment when we need to interrupt the stress response, not let the stress response go into full effect and release the two different floods of hormones. The catecholamines, adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine come out first. Later, gluco-corticoids, hydrocortisone, cortisone. People call it cortisol today. So those two different floods of hormones, if we can prevent those, and it starts with the adrenaline phase, if we can prevent the heart rate from going up, if we can prevent the face from turning red, if we can prevent the jaw wanting to touch the tight and the shoulders wanting to go up, if we can interrupt that and not release those hormones, we're not going to have all the side effects, the brain fog, the inability to think straight and remember things from the hippocampus. We actually see better, we hear better, all of our senses, and actually all of our cells are more in the homeostasis. So all the bodily processes, your metabolism, your digestion, your ability to be an athlete, your ability to function physically, everything is going to improve. Because when we go into fight or flight, you get jittery. Like you might hold out your hand and your hand's shaking a little bit. Your reflex is going to hyper, especially if you're in a sport like tennis, golf, baseball, volleyball, anything that's requiring hand-eye coordination and precision, your reflex is going to hyper and you're going to be just a little bit off. That, I love to say that we lose games in millimeters. My youngest son was a goalie. It was so true. It's like, oh, it's just this much more, and his glove the puck would have ricocheted off of his glove, you know. So we lose games in milliseconds. We lose races in milliseconds, millimeters, milliseconds, um, and just these little tiny bits. Like we almost did it, but not quite. So when all of these cells of your body start to work better, it's almost miraculous what starts to happen. First of all, you're thinking more clearly. So now you'll be able to prevent further releases of these hormones because you can actually think clearly rather than be in that threatened state. That threatened state is going to cause you to overreact over and over and over again. And you're basically creating cascades of hormones. By the way, when they talk about let's test your hormones, well, you'd have to be testing like, I don't know, every 5, 10 minutes throughout an entire day to see, all right, here it's high, here it's low. It's like Wall Street. It's going up and down all day. And if you have second floods of hormones, then it's just kind of crazy what's going on with the body. And literally I like to think of it as like we're like offline. We're offline. One of my clients, I remember this, she's kind of reminded me of nuclear science, which she goes, I've been living a half life. I've been living a half life until pressure free. Sometimes that half life is that you do work really great, but you come home and you're so exhausted, you can't have fun. You can't go for a golf game with your partner or friend. You can't walk your dog. You can't be with your kids and like really be with them because you've just spent it all. And it's like that's the half-life. You're doing this and you're doing it quite well because you're probably a very consummate professional. But over here, like, how are you when you get home? So this idea of the key is the timing. It's not enough to have your stressful day and then take care of yourself in the evening with good food, exercise, etc. Yoga, meditation, those are all wonderful things. And you can put them in your life because you want to be healthy. Eat a really great diet. You could eat the best diet. And we've seen this. We've seen people eat incredible diets, work out really well, and then still die of heart attacks in their 40s. Like, why is that? There's a lot of reasons why, but the biggest culprit are these stress hormones. I talk about that in my CEO book, which is a super bold book. My parenting book is a lot more gentler and nicer, but I get pretty bold in that CEO book. So the timing is the key. Noticing when we're starting to trigger the stress response, making a conscious decision to say it's not worth it. It's not worth messing this all up. Like we get that choice. And so right in that decision moment, that is the time to use any of the tools that I teach you here. I always start with these physical tools on purpose because if you're an adult, one of the only ways you can instantly open new neural pathways is a gross motor motion that is unique. You don't do it all the time. So if you raise the roof all the time, I got to find a different thing for you to do. You can shoot a 3-point shot. You can do this swim thing, which is not a real stroke on purpose, because you're actually opening up new neural pathways. So you can change up a habit far faster than the books tell you. Like if you read books about habits, it's going to take you 21 days, 100 days, whatever that is. Actually, I've had people have breakthroughs in pressure free in 4 days. So, so you don't need all that time. What you need is to use the science of our bodies. So this gross motor motion gives you a moment. All you need is a moment to say, no reason to go into fight or flight here, even because this car just cut me off on the highway. If you have a little road rage, right? It's like, oh no, I'm just going to work or going to school or wherever you're going. It's like, it's going to be a great day. I used to be very overreactive to people getting too close to my car. Um, I keep a lot of distance between me and cars. It's just a thing. I grew up that way on icy roads in New Hampshire. It's just what you do. And so I do that here. in Michigan because the roads are icy here in the winter too. But I actually don't trust a lot of people on the road. They're distracted. They're more distracted than ever. So just kind of like a lot of distance. But becoming pressure free, actually, I clearly remember when my eldest said, Mother, I think you're become too pressure free when you drive. But I just really let go all of that overreaction because that just hurts me. It doesn't help me. It doesn't make me a better driver either. And so noticing every one of those moments, using a very simple tool. It can be the swim, it can be a smile, it can be an up level of your posture to inform your brain there is no reason to go into fight or flight. That is the secret to pressure-free living. That is what I coach. Now, I've kept it very simple, but we are incredibly complex beings. You have all of this history of your life. Not only that, our habits of reaction are generations old because you imitated people, your parents, your coaches, your teachers, anyone that you emulated, you picked up little clues from them. And so you react to things because you saw it happen over and over again, like spilt milk on the floor. You might have had a parent who, when something spilled in the kitchen, there was a reaction. So you might have that too. So what we do when you work with me, we untangle all of that. Sometimes it's a big tangled mess. And but little bit by little bit, we untangle that so you can start to see clearly. It's it can take some time. So I'm a super patient coach. But here's what I know. Everything that I've built is built on science, the biology of your body, the biology of your brain, and how the stress response works. So when we start to untangle that, you can actually start to feel real relief. I've had people who've told me they've been in anxiety for years and they finally feel relief for the first time. It's because we're working with the biology of it. So I hope this is helpful. The key is in the timing. And of course, I wish you a beautiful pressure-free day. Bye.